What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Madonna, and we're returning to the normal chronology, which is to say I did a reaction to a Pet Shop Boys remix of a Madonna track from the mid-2000s, but we're jumping back to Bedtime Stories, 1994. Thank you again to Mark. And the next track is more or less the title tune, meaning Bedtime Story is singular, whereas Bedtime Stories plural is the album title, but yes, essentially this seems like it is the thematic track of the album. And a bedtime story is one which is told to children to calm them, to comfort them, to perhaps enrich their imagination as they prepare for sleep. Sometimes bedtime stories can have more complicated emotional trajectories, meaning some have peril or even a lesson that is to be learned that is born out of danger encountered because of bad behavior. But generally speaking, I think bedtime stories are lighter and more comprehensively positive. Now, obviously, in the context of an album with heavy occasionally and adult themes about love and self-worth and feelings of isolation, even melancholy, I expect this to be more complicated, more mixed, more nuanced. But yes, a bedtime story perhaps could be one you tell to yourself to, at the very least, make it to the next day and to find a reason to get up, to, what's the right word, euphemize or cast a positive spin on what has happened in your real life as you prepare to go to bed during the day. So yeah, I can see any number of directions this could go. I'll try to catch what I can. This is Madonna, the track is Bedtime Story, and it's from the 1994 album Bedtime Stories.
Today is the last day that I'm using words. They've gone out, lost their meaning, don't function anymore. Let's get unconscious, honey. Let's get unconscious, honey. Today is the last day that I'm using words. They've gone out, lost their meaning, don't function anymore. Leaving logic and reason to the arms of unconsciousness. Leaving logic and reason to the arms of unconsciousness. Let's get unconscious, honey. Let's get unconscious. Let's get unconscious, honey. Let's get unconscious. Words are useless, especially sentences. They don't stand for anything. How could they explain how I feel? I'm traveling, leaving logic and reason. I'm gonna relax in the arms of unconsciousness. Let's get unconscious, honey. Let's get unconscious. longing and yearning. How can I explain how I feel? Let's get unconscious, honey. Let's get unconscious. Let's get unconscious, honey. Let's get unconscious. In the arms of unconsciousness. And all that you ever learned, try to forget. I'll never explain again.
That's a great tune. Sonically, I love the dreamy, jazzy house type of sound with, you know, a bit of a, like, electronica. There was even, like, a flavor in there. I don't quite know how to place it, but yeah, mostly it sounded like a dreamy jazz house type of track, but there was almost like a bluesy country feel, like, filtered through some of the electronic sonics. I don't know if anyone else will hear that, but yeah, and I'm not even sure that's quite the right phrase to describe the way my brain heard it, but yes, ultimately the vocal performance, very, like, understated, a bit breathy, but, like, almost sounding like the kind of words or the voice that you would hear drifting off into dreams. Lyrically, I'm curious, because I feel like my mind was inclined to take it two different directions. Like, one, it is the idea that, you know, real life has been tough and, you know, words don't even have meaning anymore, and, you know, it's the best you can do is hope to leave reason and logic behind and just try to, you know, tell yourself a bedtime story and drift off into sleep where things might be better even if they're less realistic. But then, like, part of me was thinking that maybe it was, you know, not unlike Enjoy the Silence by Depeche Mode, where, you know, you're saying, like, yeah, words are imperfect, you know, they just kind of get in the way, like, you know, the feeling and knowing in an emotional sense and, you know, finding that connection in a more visceral, direct way is far more enlightening and far more powerful, and thus leaving reason and logic and words behind would be less about feeling melancholy or sad and more about, like, let's get unconscious together, let's, you know, feel this unspoken and maybe even illogical connection, because that's more real than anything, you know, that you've learned, anything that you know by reason or logic. And so again, that, what was the line, like, leave everything you've learned behind, something to that effect. So again, you know, maybe it's neither of those things, maybe it could be a bit of both, but my brain was a bit perplexed as to whether it was more of a melancholy desire to just reach into dreams and to be unconscious because reality and consciousness and reason and logic and what you've learned in the end hurt and they're painful and they're difficult to get through, or whether it's saying words are unnecessary, they can only do harm, that kind of thing. And so why don't we just get unconscious together in this dreamlike state, because that's more logical than actual logic or reason, or, you know, the things we tell each other about emotions and experiences. So yeah, again, maybe none of that is correct, but I enjoyed her vocal performance. I enjoyed the smooth sonics. Anytime you get a four to the floor, you know, kick drum going, as someone who likes techno and trance, you're going to catch my ear. And I like that, like, jazzy keyboard chord, like, texture of the track overall. And then there were some, like, other elements which, as I said, had a bit of a, like dreamy, jazzy type of feel. So overall, a really cool track. Curious to hear what people have to say about this one. Let me know, and I will see you next time. Peace.